So, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. So, thank you so much for our previous reporter for facilitating the previous activity. And now, let me just ask you a question now, because since we employ a pre-reading approach, and I am assuming that every one of you already read the literary piece entitled Three Generations by Nick Wilkins. I want to ask you a question. How did the character, setting, and plot events contribute to the theme of the story? Now, please raise your hand if you want to answer. All right. Thank you so much for that wonderful answer. Very good. Yeah, that is actually correct. That's true. Now, how about number two? What central issue or conflict was shown in the literary selection? Raise your hand if you want to answer. Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Thank you so much for answering the question. Now, let's go with the last question now. How do family expectations affect a person's identity and decisions? Yes, that is actually correct. All right, thank you so much for answering our questions. I totally agree with you, everyone, that there's a way in terms of family expectations, especially for the children, right? Like you tend to do more, you tend to go beyond the standards. You're pressuring yourself, something like that. And you're also shaping your identity inside our home. So that's why the influence of family inside our home is really crucial, whether it's bad or it can bring you trauma, or whether it's good or to give you a better for a betterment of yourself, something like that. All right, thank you so much for answering our questions, everyone. I really appreciate your participation in this one. Now let's go to the characters now as we delve in more into the question that I gave you. Now, in the Three Generations by Nick Wakin, we do have here the characters. So the story actually mainly revolves around like the father, which is this one, the Celo's father, and also we also have Chitong, Sofia Munson, and which is the son of Celo Munzon and Sofia Munzon. So these three generations represent different attitudes toward family, especially the father of Celo Munzon, and Chitong. So these are the three generations. So they represent a different attitudes towards family, responsibility, and emotional expression. So each character reflects how family values are passed down generation by generation, either positively or negatively. But in this case, in the story of Nick Joaquin in Three Generations, as you can clearly see, it's pretty vivid here that there's a generational conflict. Like there's a trauma in terms of their generation, especially on the part of Salomon Zon and his father, right? So we also have Sophia Munzon, which is the mother of Jitong and which is the wife of Salomon Zon. So Sophia Munzon is just kind of neutral. She's kind of like, like supportive, full of wisdom to her son, which is Chitong. All right. Now, also we also have here Nena. So Nena, which is like like the cousin. I mean the younger sister of Solomon Zon. We also have Paolo, which is the cousin and Celo's father, and also the girl, which is the girl who vanished from the territory of Celo's father, because the girl represents something like a wife to the Celo's father. Even though like Celo's father is kind of old, and there's someone in the presence of the old man, which is the girl. So her identity is actually unknown in the story. No, I really want you to tell about. I mean, I really want to talk about what do you call this? yeah, Salomon's because this is actually the main problem about Salomon's. Like in the story, as you can see, Salomon's was kind of, like full of trauma from the childhood because of the abuse from his father, which is Salo's father. He really put the trauma on his head and heart until he had his own family and, like a child, which is Chitong. So for this one, Chitong really wanted to become a priest, and he seeks a life devoted to God. But at really, in the very first of the story, in the beginning, Chitong wanted to become a lawyer, as what is, it is actually a dream as well for Selo Monzon way back then, but did that happen? So he wanted for his son to continue studying law, but later on it was being diverted because Chitong he really wanted to become a priest and seek a life devoted to God. So there are a lot of talking about Sofia Monzon, Selo Monzon, Chitong about becoming a priest, something like that, because Chitong feels like there's something missing to his heart. And because of that, when they entered the car, Chito and Salomozo, while driving towards their destination, they have like a mini talk with his father between Celo and Chito, where in fact Celo Monzon before he pursued priesthood, and Chito was really shocked and really amazed, and because of that they have the understanding now. All right. So the family dynamic between the Monzon family is really kind of complicated, and it's really kind of reflective as well. All right. Thank you so much. So now let's actually the happenings inside the story of Nick Walker in Three Generations has several themes we can identify. The first one is generational conflict, as what I said earlier. Maybe Celo's father, that's why he did such thing to Celo Monzon, like abusing his children. Maybe he also experienced that way back then when he was still a kid. Because we believe that, and we all know most of the time, that those people from late generations, I mean earlier generations, were kind of, very strict, kind of abusive somehow. Not all, but most of the time, sometimes. So maybe that kind was passed down generations by generations. And also, Solomon Zon don't want to happen to, to abuse his son, something like that. He don't want to become like his father. It's not his dream at all. All right. And also, family dynamics, inheritance of behavior. So I think I really believe in this one. Sometimes when we are not freeing ourselves from the trauma that we have from the past, I think we have the tendency to be influenced by or to inherit the behavior from our family. Let's say, for example, Celo's father and Celo Monzon. Celo Monzon really, as what I said earlier, he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to acquire the behavior or the attitude of his father, Celo's father, which is the old man. But he was kind of, compelling himself to not to go on that path, just like his father. So that's why he really deepened his understanding regarding on the family matters, and that's why kind of, breaking the generational trauma or the behavior, and also the identity shaped by family history. So this one, you know we shape the identity shape because of the family history as well, especially if we talk about the setting of the story. So the story is set in a very particular Filipino family home, you know what I mean, and where most of the emotional and psychological conflicts takes place, because sometimes trauma happens in our home sometimes, and the domestic setting emphasizes that Like the story struggles are deeply personal and like rooted within the family itself. So a lot of you, I think, experience this one as I am, because like trauma can happen in our very home that's supposedly to be our safe space, some or a safe zone for us to express, for us to be safe, secured. But sometimes it can't be, it doesn't happen at all, something like that. Not all, but for some experiences. All right. So because of that, like, the identity can be shaped because of the influence of the family or the family history. As what I said, the abusive father of Selesmun's son, that Selesmun's son become ish and abusive, but he managed to control it, and kind of, he doesn't want to have that kind of chained generational conflict. All right. So for this one, we can associate this with the conflict mainly about man versus man, or man versus self. So there is actually a tension, or maybe like man versus the society, because there's a tension between father and son, right? As what I said, but also internal struggle as each character deals with anger, what else? Guilt, or misunderstanding shaped by the previous generation. So, kalaban nila yung sarili nila. Or sometimes, it's really hard to fight yourself because it's yourself. And also because the society as well. Maybe because of that kind of norm before, where parents tend to be more strict. So, it kind of, there's a tension between man and the society. So, I think it also contribute to the struggle of our characters because of what society it was before, kind of strict society, very not liberated, modern, I mean not modern, I mean conservative, conventional, something like that. All right. So yeah, these are the theme: generational conflict, family dynamics, and inheritance of behavior, and also identity shaped by family history. All right, thank you so much. And I really want you everyone to think that if you cannot freely let go of pain and emotional burdens, there is a tendency for them to be passed down or passed on and repeated in the next generation, affecting how family relationships grow and heal. So this is my reflection about this story actually. I just want you to realize during our discussion now, like, if we tend to, I know it's really hard to forget something if something bad happened to us, but what I mean is that let go of the anger, let go of the ambiguity within your heart or within yourself, because if you tend to let go and accept the fact, and you don't put a seed of anger within you, then there's a tendency that you can feel, or you may feel better, and you may heal from these kinds of pain. And in tendency, if you if you choose to what do you call this one, if you choose to make your own family, and of course you have now the capability to think critically about, you try to question yourself: am I a good mother, am I a good father, something like that? Am I being too strict, am I being abusive to my children, or what? So you tend to ask that question, and you try to, take another path for the betterment of the family and the society. And also, it's better for yourself as well, because you break the generational norms, right? If you experience trauma before, abusive family before, then you should not do that to your new family or your own family. All right. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment in the chat box or raise your hand, and I will pass the virtual forward to continue the discussion to the next presenter. Have a great day, everyone.